Crypto market right now is correcting lower. We are just above $1.2 trillion. The banking sector is looking really worse than 2008 financial crisis. So at this point, what makes you think like buying the dips or at major support can provide greater returns? And that is the fundamental side of how things are evolving. This is one of the fundamental news. This does look like fundamentals are improving. So inside the market cycle, when you look for things, you do have to zoom out and look for what the hell is happening right now. Bitcoin just went above its resistance range. It went and tested the moving average. Now, when it's correcting lower, it is reasonable to say that we are coming close to this support range, and that can be a good buy zone. Now, this is not the first time we are saying this. We have been talking about exactly this, for at least 3 weeks. Talking about, now, this was like when we were at the top, $30,000, saying, okay, we are going down and we are going down most likely towards 21,000, right? The opportunity talk about Bitcoin dropping was there. And right now in the market, we are observing that the market is showing us signals. These signals are valuable if you use it correctly. If you look at last corrections, it was like 4 to 5 days after you crossed the moving average to the downside. Now, if you zoom in right now, it's just starting. So the max we have seen is 8 days, and we may have another 5 days to the downside. Now, can this be different this time because this is a short-term scenario? 100%. Let it take another 5 more days. 10, 15 days is still going to be great because you are looking at this scenario. While we were about 29,000, we actually had this thought process, right? Showing, okay, we may actually go through this and we'll have short-term leg correcting down and all this different stuff. Now, one of which is like a macro thought process, and this is like the short-term narrative. And this was on the 4-hour chart earlier today when we were close to $29,000. Saying, okay, we actually broke this level, and I think this is going to be a retest. And right now, when we jump onto a 4-hour chart in Bitcoin, we'll actually watch like, okay, yes, it is true that the market is showing us the fact that it is correcting. But what's more interesting is to watch how the market is evolving, right? We had this trend line. We broke that to the downside. We retested that and got rejected. And that was the scenario what we were highlighting here. Because as you take another step back, zooming out, it was clear like we were making a pattern which was like a rising wedge, which usually gets rejected. And that's the power of this trend line. And this was when we were about 29,000, saying, okay, we are getting rejected here. That means we are looking for downside, and downside can be stronger. So here I was saying like, okay, it will indicate the sellers are becoming stronger. Right now you observe the fact that they are becoming stronger. Now, when Bitcoin actually moves like this, you have to understand, okay, there are things in the market which gives us better understanding. Like last couple of times when we were above the moving average here, just before coming back down, we had the exact same pattern. We were showing the corrective signals in the market. Now, if we use that and look at XRP to understand, okay, what is most likely, there's a weekly chart. It shows, okay, RSI is coming down towards the same trend. And if we make that, we are somewhere close to the bottom. And I'm like, okay, Bitcoin is nowhere near the bottom. So how can XRP be at the bottom, right? And we really have to break that down. A few days back, we had this thought process saying, okay, we may not be at the bottom because the RSI does show you that we have downside. And that's why I was giving you guys that thought process. Right now, we reached that range. In Binance, if you actually look at XRP, you can actually observe the fact that we hit 0.42 level. And that was the volatility today. Now, is that volatility over? Are we not going to see lower? Right now, it's 0.409, say 0.41 as the low which was put in Now we got the daily close and we are observing how volatile the market is. So the narrative which we gave here is working out. Now the next big question here in the market is going to be, where the hell is the real opportunity zone? Welcome to the scientific investor family, where the normal retail guys get learn how to become the next top 10% of this world. Right now we are observing China coming out, highlighting you can actually use crypto to settle debts. And that's actually a big thing to understand, because right now you have a situation where the rates are so high. Now they are slowing it down, but still it's relatively higher. And they have the debt crunch, or the liquidity crisis is there. Now they can actually use these assets to close this. So that can be one of the easy way to move capital. Then we are observing another one here from the Europe. And here they are actually giving you the narrative. Prime Minister wants the citizens to pay government services in Bitcoin. So it's literally like they can actually buy and hold on to this asset for longer term. So most likely narrative right now is that there is something wrong with the dollar, and we are observing that fact like, okay, this is something big. 2022 marked the first annual decrease in US bank deposits. That is since 1948. So there is something big happening right now, and that is most likely going to be ending in an area where this empire is going down. So if we put that into the right perspective, I would say, okay, that means the current monetary system is about to blow up, and that would most likely push the market into a new financial infrastructure. I'm not saying it's completely XRP, I'm not saying it's XRP Ledger or ILP, but we have a lot of probability to get a teeny tiny bit at least of this market share, which is big in the grand scheme of things, because we're not talking about 20,000 crypto assets going into the market. We're talking about maybe 10 or 20 assets with utility entering into that game. Now, we're going into the technical side of things and we are looking at what's possible. Right now, we observe the fact that, okay, we are coming back to the trend line. So what's the best case scenario? What's the worst case scenario, right? So the best case scenario I would say is that, okay, RSI is showing that we are at support, and that too on a 3-day chart. So I would like to, look at that on a weekly, and here it is. On a weekly, you're closing in to that level. So that's good. 1, the RSI is at support. 2, the moving average is being tested right now. It's 0.41, we came to 0.41 already, we touched that range and we bounced. But again, the key issue here is that the Bitcoin is still above 27,000. It's nowhere near the major support levels. So if Bitcoin is to come lower to test 25,000, 24,000, 23,000 and lower, what would happen to altcoin market? Right, we are already observing a lot of these coins bleeding, and some of them are bleeding hard. But the difference is actually measured if you are looking at that on a weekly, a monthly, a quarterly perspective. That's where you actually get to see things are bad for some of these assets, right? Say, for example, Algo is actually a fundamental asset, but with SEC issue, it's down 43% for this quarter. So you need to look for assets which are trending down. You need to look for assets which are making a bottom. Because now, if you understand the fact that it's down 40% on the quarter and 70% down on the year, and it's a huge support level, that can be a great opportunity. We are right now going through that in the Patreon, looking for opportunities, right? We're going through and sharing all the different charts for different assets in here. Now, coming back into the market, what does that mean for XRP? If you're looking at XRP, what should we look for? That's one of the interesting questions. Now, if you actually keep this in mind and remove all this and just take in the concept of, are we at least getting any kind of reversal signal on the shorter time horizon? Because that does show you like, okay, yeah, if there is a possibility of us going back up, now will be that time to look for. But here we are still floating inside this corrective range. Now the corrective pattern here is still valid. We may still get a bounce, we may still go up and get rejected, because last time when we went up, this previous level acted as a resistance. We got rejected at that level. So if we are coming back up, we're not looking for the bigger ranges here at 0.47. We would most likely look for a range below 0.45, most likely 0.44. Now, it doesn't make much of a difference on the short term, but if you are looking at a buying opportunity in this asset, now that thing does make some sense, because you are looking for the trend line support here, and the RSI kind of show you the fact that, okay, price has not yet reached that level, but I'm now testing this level, which is actually a great thing to watch, because on a daily chart right now, while you look at this, it kind of shows you, okay, the price broke the moving average, it came back, it retested the moving average, then it got rejected. So if you are watching that clearly, you'll see the price broke the moving average, retested, and got rejected. Great. Now, where are we right now? We are at the range of support, or the previous resistance turning into a support. So while we observe the fact that 0.4 to 0.42 is going to be a key range for XRP, if Bitcoin is about to drop violently, then we would see 0.37 coming into the range, 0.38 coming into the range. That is still a huge possibility if Bitcoin decides to go down violently. Because in the news sector, we also saw the fact that Bittrex as an exchange is getting hammered. So yes, we are watching that there is some kind of probability or the drama of US default, which is happening right now. And we are observing that the banking system is getting crushed. Because watching 50% of the banks in US having more than heavy amounts of debt was huge. So here, Fed shows 722 banks reported unrealized losses over 50% of capital. That's big. They still did another 25 basis point hike, and they were talking about the next one coming in. So I'm like, okay, now this is hard. Because if they had to do this, for example, imagine they are already 50% down. Great. Now what happens if the mortgages are not being paid? They have to now take an asset class, which is real estate, which is dropping in value. Great. So they have to take that back, put it into their books, and what happens? The value is dropping. So they are underwater again. So that's going to be a bad situation on the macro narrative of things. And as we see, okay, this just happened. What's next, right? US is actually pushing crypto out of that country and the entire Web3 segment into a different way. And they are most likely moving into Middle East, most likely moving into Asia. We actually are watching that turning up. Now, coming back onto XRP on the Binance, we are able to watch the fact that, okay, last time when we broke the moving average here, we retested that and made a double bottom. So right now, we haven't yet bounced, because this is a weekly chart and this week has just started. So we really have to think how far we are going to go, because what we are using here is a 21-day moving average, and it shows us the fact that, okay, last time it acted as a resistance here, it acted as a resistance here. Right now, it is acting as a support. And while we actually come back down to retest this range and the moving average hold the price well enough, that's a great bullish signal, because now you're trending, right? You remove all this, go on to a line chart, and you can see if that's true. Now we are holding on to this level of support. Respecting that level would be one of the most bullish things to watch in this market. Remember, we actually had a thought process of what's happening in the market, but then we just got a double top making on the short term. We started correcting ABC. We are coming down here. If that ABC correction is about to end here, we also have to watch Bitcoin making a bottom. So biggest question here in the market right now is, with Bitcoin still about 27,000, what the hell are we looking at? I think on a monthly, Bitcoin is already showing you a major reversal. So that means from 30,000, you're not talking about 25,000, 26,000 range. Most likely you're talking about somewhere down the line below 23,000. Maybe it can be 22, maybe it can be 20,000 or 21,000. I really don't know. We'll have to follow how the price actually works. But the scenario on the monthly does give you that narrative. It's really easy to focus on the price action on a macro. Look at this. Last time you had this amount of buying volume, but the price barely moved to the upside. Great. So buyers did win the match, but they were not able to push it way far. Now, right now, the monthly, we have just moved a week in this month. We have a long way to go. But look at this. The volume is so low compared to the previous month, but the price action is already bigger than the last month. So when you zoom in, you actually get to see like, okay, we just erased the last month of gains. And right now with this little amount of volume in selling, sellers are able to crush the buyers, or fear is entering into the market, which can actually literally bring panic at one point, and that won't be visible on a monthly. We'll literally have to go in shorter time frame horizons, maybe a weekly, maybe a 3-day, maybe a daily. On a weekly, right now you're still at a key level, and as soon as you see a break here, I believe fear is going to step in, because after that, now your pure support range is going to be down here, 24,300, say close to 24,000. Because when this drops, it does not usually drop slow, it drops hard. That means instead of touching 24, it can go down to 23 and then bounce off. That still is a huge possibility while it travels to the downside. Where is the exact bottom going to be? Where is the real buying opportunity going to be? That's hard to say. But if you look at the price action, it does show you there is a huge possibility that you can look for assets and buy them when it actually comes down here. I can be wrong, agreed. But the way we have observed the market, the way we had watched the market and gave thought process to you guys, now that's working out. Yes, we were a little bit early. We were saying that early April, saying, okay, we are going to correct back down, but we haven't yet made another high. So I think that's still valid, right? The narrative is still valid. The market is playing that narrative out. And as you zoom out, you see a rounded bottom coming in, maybe coming back to test that rounded bottom support, which is going to be again bullish. Now, yes, you will have to look at the Bitcoin dominance, because the way the Bitcoin dominance move, it kind of gives you that idea like, okay, Bitcoin dominance is still above the big level of resistance. So you broke higher. If you manage to maintain this level and bounce off here, that means alts are about to get crushed. So in the last video, I was saying, okay, Bitcoin has 10 to 15% to drop, whereas alts are showing 10% as the support. In this scenario, alts will do 20 to the downside when Bitcoin drops 10%. That's panic in the market, because right now in the market, you can actually observe that happening, right? We have a lot of these assets which are dropping heavy. Just in the last 30 days, they're down 30, 40, 50%. Cake, it's down 27% for the week and 50% for the month. We had this shared in the group saying, okay, I think this is actually dropping. This is a key level of support. It may actually drop big. And right now we are observing the same happening. Then look at AGIX. It was one of the best coins running up in the last move up. Right now it's down. 30 days, it's 40% down. And we shared our thought process. That's the top. We are looking for the downside, and it is happening. So if you're actually looking for something similar in detail for a lot of different assets, not just Bitcoin and XRP, for a lot of different assets in the crypto market, then you can look at the Patreon. The link is given in the description below. So guys, if you received value for your time, please do hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't done that already. I'll meet you guys on the next video. Bye for now.